Federal Open Market Committee reaffirmed the current 0 to 0.25% target range for the federal funds rate. Since the committee met in July, the pace of job gains has been solid. The unemployment rate has declined, and overall labor market conditions have continued to improve.
While Janet Yellen and the Fed play their interest rate games to the point of exasperation, while the various opinionators and so-called experts weigh in on Carly Fiorina's HP record, fact and fiction, America remains in a post-election cycle that has Republicans maintaining they have what it takes to win back the White House. Others are not so convinced. Mixing finance and the political machine. Welcome back the Wall Street veteran economist and author of The American Dream Under Fire, Steve Beaman, along with the national columnist, professor of business at the University of Maryland. And on Newsmax.com today, you'll read his column entitled Republicans Must Change to Win, Peter Morici. Gentlemen, I thank you both for joining us. Peter, I'm going to begin with you on that column. You talk about repackaged Reaganism is all that's being offered by the GOP. And here's the quote that got me. They must change with the times and recognize solutions that worked for the Gipper don't resonate today. Peter, honestly, I'm not an economist. I've been saying this out loud for quite some time. Reagan's wonderful, but he just doesn't captivate people as he would have 20, 30 years ago, correct?
Also, the closest thing we have to it is the Bush tax cut, the Bush tax package, and that simply won't generate the growth and make people better off. You have to take on things like trade, the monopolization of markets. You know, a populist agenda right now would be very consistent with conservative values. If we take it from the point of view of opening up markets, making people get a better chance in marketplaces. For example, the cable companies. Technology gets cheaper every year, the cable rates go up. The banks aren't paying any interest for money these days. They're charging double-digit interest rates on your credit cards. And so it goes with hospitals and airlines and so many other things where the big players have monopolized the markets. It's time to bring back Teddy Roosevelt and that big stick.
or something like it, at least. I could just wait to see. You better stop. You better be very careful, because some GOP candidate is going to come out now and he or she is going to carry a big stick and start whacking people. That's frightening in itself.
My name on it and says, Peter's my running mate.
All right, Steve, let me get to you, because something else that Peter said in the column, and I wanted you to weigh in on this. They must offer understandable proposals. Boy, wait a minute, right in itself, that's a stop when it comes down to politics. That get to the root causes of job loss, student debt, unafforded health care, and remaining discrimination, or they simply can't win. You talk politics. Do you agree with that?
I do, but I think we have to go the next step, and I think we need to start educating the American people on the fact that many of these problems that Peter points out all come down to government. Whether you look at the cost of college today and the impact of government subsidization on that, whether we look at the monopolies that exist in the cable companies, we look at the healthcare debacle that's gone on, it's all driven by government. And the Republicans need to come up with a coalesced response to Democratic neo-socialist agendas that once again energize people to say we can grow, we can be great, but in order to do so, we need to get government out of the way.
I'm going to show up on this desk one day with the three of us, and I'm going to just carry a big stick and just bang it against the desk a few times. We'll see if that gets us anywhere. Well, no. Don't put me in that category just yet. I'll have my own stick. Thank you very much. Let's move on now to the government and the Fed, because we heard Janet Yellen at the start. Steve, I'll stay with you here. There was a column at CNBC.com today that made me think. It said, could negative rates be on the Fed's policy menu, saying that negative rates means businesses and consumers are essentially paid to borrow money? Is that realistic?
Well, it's going on in some of the European states, and the reason is people want security of their money more than they want return on their money. I think if you have a lot of global disruption, you have a lot of fear and uncertainty in the markets, you indeed could see people willing to secure their money even at a negative interest rate.
Is it possibly, Peter, that this is inevitable, as the same column states?
No, I don't believe it is. I think it's a bad strategy that's being pursued by the European Central Bank. They're essentially charging banks some interest on the extra reserves they have on deposit. By doing so, they're actually raising their cost of business, and they're encouraging them to make risky loans. And it makes people's money less secure. In turn, by the way, big depositors are being charged interest for the banks having to hold the money. I don't think this is the way out. There's limits to monetary policy. The root causes of slow growth in the West, whether it's the United States or Europe, is too much government. You know, things like subsidized student loans, to go back to what we were talking about before.
Now, I got about a minute 30 left. earlier in the show, we had a chance to have my buddy Carol Roth on the show. She also is from CNBC, by the way. And we talked about Carly Fiorina and this entire HB issue as well. So here you go. Peter, I'm going to give you first chance at this right now. Was Carly Fiorina as bad as some people want to make it out to be? Or was she simply just a CEO that had to make tough choices?
There's a very good article yesterday in Politico that makes a contrast or compares her record at HP with the technology sector in general. And it was abysmal. By the way, she is a graduate of my college. And I am very disappointed with how right, she is a Maryland MBA. And I'm very disappointed with how dishonest she displayed herself at that debate. She not only manipulated the facts and toyed with the numbers, but she also really lied about her career. She was a receptionist for 3 months after she dropped out of law school. She comes from well-off parents, a well-off family, a privileged childhood. She's hardly a Horatio Alger story. It's absurd what she was saying.
All right, 30 seconds to you, Steve. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there because I think Peter just hammered away about as hard as anybody could because he certainly has that knowledge of what she is. But in your opinion, 25 seconds. Was it that something she had to do or she got caught in? What's the truth?
I think it's a little of both. I think any of these CEOs, it's, do the times make the man or the man make the times? I think Carly has some things to brag about. Certainly the growth in patent receivers that they had, or the patent numbers. So their technology and innovation were very strong, but truly the business itself, the acquisition of Compaq and other things weren't going to play out in her favor in the long run.
We're going to pass this on. We're going to see what Carly Fiorina has to say. That, oh boy, Peter, I love it. Peter Morici, Steve Beaman, gentlemen, always being honest. Thanks so much for joining us. Reminder on the way out, we're talking candidates. Who's your pick for the GOP candidate in 2016? Go to Newsmax.com or NewsmaxPolls.com. Tell us about it. We'll talk about it on the Hard Line.